Again, if you can grab that PDF and just have it pulled up for yourself, if you can print it out, it's going to be helpful to type into that or write into that as we're going through. But I'm going to dive in and share a personal story with you guys really quickly, and then we're going to go directly into the PDF. So in 2018, I had just started a brokerage, a three-way brokerage with two of my good friends in Matthews, North Carolina, which is right outside of Charlotte. We went down, everything was going really well. We were building the team up, we were getting some success, getting some sales. We were about 7 weeks in. It was October, and I got this call from Maryland. And normally I don't answer calls that I don't know. So I had some premonition that I needed to answer this call. I answered the call, and the lady on the other line said that she was a funeral director, and my father had just passed away, 52, severe heart attack, died in his daughter's arms. So what you need to know is that my dad was really not a part of my life. So, he was really not there at all. We weren't close. I hadn't seen him for over a decade before I got this call. The funeral director gave me two options. She said, one option is his wife and two kids are going to be forced to sell their house to pay for the funeral, or you're going to have to find a way to pay for it. I was just about to buy my first house. Came out of pocket, $19,000 paid for his funeral. Didn't even have the money to go visit and see the actual funeral. I was on the edge in terms of my mental state. Everything I felt was against me. It was easy to play victim role. All of these hypotheticals, all of these what ifs. It was a really tough place in my life. And I had lost a lot of my friends. I wasn't reaching out to anybody for help. It was a dark time. The one thing that saved my life was discipline. And once I implemented discipline, it turned everything around for me. About a week after I got that information, paid for the funeral, was at the end, I got a call from a friend in Chicago, Illinois. This was during the polar vortex. And he said, I've got a position. I need you to come fill it. So I went and did it. But I would not have been able to do that if I didn't have that discipline. So I'm going to dive in and share some of these tips with you guys. So can everybody see this? Just a thumbs up real quick if you can see it. Awesome. Awesome. So again, if you have this pulled up, or even if you just have a Post-it note or a piece of paper, just anything in front of you, I know everybody just shared one area that discipline would bring a return. If you can jot down 3 areas and keep this to yourself, this is just for you. You don't have to share this or anything. This is for you. Let's go through these tips really quickly. Number 1, daily routine. Raymond mentioned this before, and this is a really big point. One of the things that I learned through researching top performers is they commit to daily excellence every single day. There are no days off. For example, let me ask the group on this one. What are some areas? Now, Raymond, you just said that you've got a newborn, right? What are some areas that you feel are appropriate to get complete before your baby needs you, before your business needs you, before somebody needs you? So anybody can just shout this out, by the way. What are some, of course, we've got some here. You can share those ones, but what are some areas that are applicable here?
I can share.
Good.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Well, for me personally, I obviously, just have 2 children. They're 4 and 2. And so for me in the mornings, it's most important to me to just have some peace and quiet to myself. And then during that time, I take care of the spirituality portion of my daily routine. Most of the time, that's the main thing that I for sure get done.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Now, of course, some people on here don't have kids, right? But let's just say before school starts, if you're in school, or before your business starts, your work starts, what are some things that are going to help you if you knock them out early in the morning? If anybody else has one, and then we're going to move on.
Definitely working out first thing in the morning, just to get that out of the way so that you can push through the rest of the day. I know Antonio always says, that he likes to work out, first thing in the morning, because if he can do that hard thing, then anything else is achievable.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the concept of eat the frog. And we're going to dive into that as well. Thank you for sharing, Samantha. So one thing that's really interesting with you guys mentioning this is I've always been kind of a gym rat, and I've seen this in different cities, Charlotte, Chicago, New York, like all over the place. If you go to the gym at 4 or 5 in the morning and look at the cars that are in the parking lot versus going to the gym at 7 or 8 in the morning and look at the cars that are in the parking lot, you're going to see a whole hell of a lot more net worth at 4 or 5 in the morning. Did you know the average millionaire wakes up at 4 a.m.? Why? Because they're doing this. They're implementing their daily routine. Everything you guys just said, the health, the spirituality, and personal development. Most people are going to conquer these tasks before they get into their workday, before their family needs them. So implementing that daily routine, having a system, but knowing what that is. So that's step number 1. Number 2, Samantha, this one's all you. Sleep schedule. Having a sleep schedule. Guys, if we really think about it, 8 hours is 1/3 of your day. Everybody sleeps every day, right? Unless you're Samantha. So when we get to the end of our days, we've relatively slept for 1/3 of our entire life. So sleep hygiene is extremely important. The nugget that I'll share with you guys here, keep a sleep journal. 2 ways to do this. When you get your journal, on one day, set an alarm for a specific time. Let's just call it 7 a.m. Let's say you set it for 7 a.m. You wake up, you go to your journal, jot down how you're feeling. Okay. Do that the next day. Document how you're feeling again. Okay. Now, when you have the opportunity, if it's the weekend or whatever it is, do the exact same thing, but don't set an alarm. Just go to sleep naturally, organically, hopefully at the same time relatively as the 2 studies before. Go to sleep, wake up organically, see how you're feeling. Do that one more day, okay? Keep that journal and go throughout life. What I've learned, I was an insomniac when I was a kid. I would literally only sleep like 2-3 hours a night. As I got older, I slept more, but then I hit a certain peak, and then I cannot physically sleep more than 7 hours now. I can't do it. Doesn't matter what I go through. I can try to force my body. It's not happening. So having that sleep schedule is huge and being intentional behind it. The prioritize. This one is massive. So you talked about this, and Antonia, I know, shares this as well. Eating the frog. So that's doing your most difficult tasks in the morning. And that's on the time management thing. I'm going to share that with you guys as well. Another really powerful point on this in prioritization is create a to-do list and a to-don't list. Raymond, go ahead, man.
Before you jump in, just to go back on the sleep real quick.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on the difference between setting the alarm and then not setting the alarm on the weekend? Like what the purpose is? Like, hey, I'm getting enough sleep following that schedule because I did not use an alarm and I woke up at the same time. Can you elaborate?
So your circadian rhythm is organic. Everybody has one and they're all different. It's a very specific time. What that means, every person's body has a certain necessity for amount of sleep. So when you set the alarm and you intentionally stick to that and jot the notes down, you are basically seeing how much sleep you're getting. So let's just say you went to bed at 12 a.m. that night, right? And then you set the alarm for 7 a.m. and you say, okay, I got 7 hours of sleep. How am I feeling? And then you go to that day where you have no alarm at all. And then you wake up and see how many hours your body actually needs. So on the day where you set the alarm, you can very easily see, okay, I slept for 7 hours. On the side that's organic, your circadian rhythm is going to tap in naturally. And it's going to give you a lot of insight if 7 is actually a good number or if it's a bad number. You might actually need 8 hours. Again, everybody's different, and that's okay. Samantha, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw this out there. I got this Polar Watch recently because the sleeping tracking features are amazing. It actually tracks like how much deep sleep, how much REM sleep, how many sleep intervals. So now, because that's way more than the Apple does. The Apple Watch just like tells you how many hours you were in bed, but this like the depths of your sleep. So I think it's really cool because my sleeping habits. So I needed more insight working on that. But yeah, if anybody is interested, this really dives into your sleep.
Love that. Raymond, go ahead.
That's awesome. Samantha, I actually have a Fitbit and it does the same thing. You can look at REM, light sleep, and it actually goes through the whole thing. So I can wake up in the morning and be like, wow, similar to what you said, Keegan, I feel great today. And then I can look and see, especially when I have the boy, I don't know how many times I'm waking up and giving him a bottle. So I see, oh, I woke up 4 times and I feel like shit. Gotcha. Now I know. But I have a question for you, Keegan, because I've done similar experiments. I've just kind of noticed how long my body takes to recover and do sleep. And it's 8 hours. And it's full on, like not even 7.5 hours. It's 8 hours I sleep. But I only get 6 hours because I can't afford to sleep 8 hours. So is there hacks or something to kind of rejuvenate and maybe shorten the circadian rhythm?
There are different trains of thought on this. I've heard before through a lot of research that we inherently weren't originally intended to sleep straight through the night. So there is a method that a lot of people use that is, I don't know the proper name for it, but it's a napping technique. So you'll actually take 4 naps throughout the day, and they're like an hour and a half or 2 hours each. And then you can break up the day like that. So yeah, that is one way to do it.
For a while. I'm going to speak from some experience here. I did that for about 1.5 years. It's called the Ubermensch Schedule. And in it, I felt amazing and I loved it. When I stopped, my body like went through a very, very hard crash. That was like a month or 2 to try to pull myself out of. And what that looked like was no sort of regulation on my energy. My diet was like, I don't want to eat food. I was throwing up. Like everything was just in a place where you don't want it. I didn't have anything to like track the quality of my sleep when I was doing this, but I can say I felt amazing when I was doing it. So I bring this up only to say, if you do decide to try it, just stick to it.
I'll give you a call first and get some more details.
Yeah.
You call that Ubermensch? Okay, cool.
Ubermensch.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Yeah. And then another one, if it's applicable, if you can implement this, Raymond, would be to maximize the weekends. And really what I mean there is you don't necessarily need 2 days to reset, but if you can get 1 reset day throughout the week, whether that's a Saturday or a Sunday, or maybe it's throughout the weekday, that is a really powerful way to, again, just reset that circadian rhythm.
So I'm curious because I've had that train of thought, but then I've also thought, because a lot of people that have daily routines, they always say, especially a sleep schedule, keep it the same, right? Don't screw with it, keep it the same. What's your thought on, there's 2 methods, right? I keep it the same 7 days a week, or I do that 1 day where I sleep 10 hours. Will that mess up the rest of the week and I have to kind of get back into rhythm? What do you think?
There's an interesting psychology on this. So Andy Frisella is one of my coaches, and he touches on this. And one of the things that he talks about here is, how often do we have people that they go really hard in the gym, they eat all the right food, they get all the right amount of sleep for 6 days out of the week, and then on, let's just call it Sunday, it's their reset day, and then they eat all this garbage, they drink alcohol, they sleep like crap. You have basically ruined everything that you just worked for 6 days. So I share that because I think there's a psychology behind that. That's one scenario. But if you were saying the alternative would be, let's say Sunday, for example, is my off day, right? I do not work on Sunday. I might do some introspective work like journaling or reflection or goal setting for the week, but I'm not taking calls. I'm not doing emails. I'm not doing any of that stuff. So Sunday for me is a reset day. Now, I shared that story about Andy Frisella because I'm not going against everything that I just worked for throughout the week. I'm intentionally taking that day and I have that planned out. That's the difference, is it's intentional and it's planned. And so when you have it intentionally in your schedule and you know that that's going to occur, then test it out. That's the big thing is, again, everybody's different. So you got to test it out and see if it works. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, try a different method.
Yeah, I want to say you brought up Andy Frisella. I'm on day 10 of 75 hard. My third attempt at this.
Let's go. I love it, man. I love it. So pulling back. So, okay, we just elaborated a lot on the sleep. Thank you guys for jumping in. That was awesome. I really like the insight from everybody. On the prioritization side, you know, again, Samantha, Antonio, really big on this, but eating the frog. And that's really what we started with at the beginning, but just a different take on it because it's not necessarily about personal development, health, or spirituality. But what we're really saying here is, look, if you know that you have a very difficult task to do this day, something that you've been putting off, do it at the very beginning of the day. So when we say this, the term eat the frog is coined by Mark Twain, and his visual for this is, if you imagined actually eating a frog, like a live frog, all gross and slimy, anything else that you ate throughout the day would just be easy, right? Like everything you would look forward to. I've done the most difficult thing. And so again, that goes back to that first concept, but we're just spinning it a little differently. We're saying in this regard, this is probably more work related. So that's intentionally setting up, and that goes back to the to-do list, right? So I personally don't recommend creating to-do lists that are longer than a week. You can have big picture goals, but to-do lists should not be more than a week. Why? A lot of things are going to change and occur throughout a week. So for me, another Tai Lopez is really big on this. So what Tai Lopez says is he'll just take a Post-it note or a sheet of paper. And at the very beginning of his day, he creates a to-do list. What are the things that I need to knock out today? And that's it. It's that simple, right? So 2 concepts in prioritization, creating your to-do list. And, you know, Landon earlier shared, hey, maybe I'm getting a little bit too involved in the social aspect of my life. That would be something good to put on the to don't list. So for example, let's say you're drinking 5 days out of the week. Maybe you say, my goal for the next week is to not drink 5 days out of the week. If I do 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 or none, I've conquered that goal, right? So to-do lists are just as powerful as to don't lists. And then again, with eating the frog, once you have your list, you just conquer the thing that you don't want to do the most first. Any input, Raymond?
What's your thought on the Tony Robbins RPM system, if you've heard of it?
Talk me through. He's got more than one RPM system.
Yeah, the rapid planning method. It's so I do it on a daily basis. It's my to-do list equivalent, and I'll just pop open a page. So you set your goals first on the top of the page. What are my big goals? What am I aiming for? Then you put purpose. Why am I doing it? Right? My baby boy, I want to make sure he's taken care of. I want to build a financial wall that nothing can get through. And then results. What are my weekly results that I need to get done? And then my to-do list goes under that, because 9 times out of 10, the things that I do in my day don't go towards the results that I'm trying to get for the week. So that way, I mean, I personally love it. I've been doing it for 2 some odd years, and it's very intentional, because most of the time I can get rid of and not do 80% of my to-do list and still get my results.
I love that. Yeah. And this kind of goes back to something that Vinny said before, but when you talk about the goal, I absolutely love that, Raymond. So the goals, yes, intentionality behind it, the why component, you said the purpose piece, right? But the why is really what we're talking about. Why is this important to you? And then that last part is results. We have to be results based. You know, there are so many people that I can watch and monitor that go throughout a day and they might work 10, 12 hours, but then you look at what they actually accomplished throughout the day and it's like, what the heck were you doing for 12 hours? You actually got nothing done. And so when we measure our results over our output, it's more effective. A lot of people will refer to this as a qualitative approach. You do not want a qualitative approach. What that means is, if I show up and do this, I expect this to be the outcome. That doesn't work that way. There's too much out of your control. You want to focus on that result side. So I'll share a tidbit with that RPM system that you referred to. in my life, and this is something that I've built over the years, is I just do this on Sunday. So I'll have daily goals. I'll go throughout the week, but then when I get to Sunday, it is, I need to do intentional reflection. And that's that intentionality piece that you mentioned again. What went well? Here's the thing on reflection. There's two sides. You win some battles, you lose some battles. The winning side, what can I do to replicate and get better results? The losing side, what can I learn from this? How can I implement these lessons and make my results better? So I think those are really good ways to do it. And if you do this on a daily basis, that's fantastic. I love that. The reality is most people aren't going to do that. It's just the truth. So you've got to have a could, should, and must. It is, okay, all hell could break loose. The house could catch on fire. I could lose my job. I must do this one day out of the week, no matter what happens. Could, if most things go well, but a couple things fall off, not according to plan, I could get this done. And then the should is, okay, everything is perfect. All the stars are aligned. I should hit this goal, right? So having those metrics is a really good way, because the must is like, no matter what happens, hell or high water, I am getting this done no matter what. Great question.
Awesome stuff.
All right, so let's go to the next one here. So in the saying no, we're going to get a little deep on this one. Anybody in here, by the way, ever get caught up in saying, being a yes person, where they just say yes to things and then they look back and they're like, why the hell did I say yes to this? And then you feel bad about it, right? You're like, why did I tell this person I was going to do this? Or why did I say yes to that event? Happens to all of us, okay? This comes from a place of being a people pleaser or from the fear of criticism. Now, that's going directly to the root and just attacking this head on. The reality is, when you can face these fears, which is the root, when you face the fears, it gives you power over this, okay? So number one is you must have clarity on the end result. What I specifically mean is, if you don't know exactly what you want out of life, out of this year, out of the next month, the next week, or out of this day, if you don't know, you're going to float around aimlessly. You're going to say yes to a whole lot of things that do not serve you because you have absolutely no clarity on the direction that you are heading. That destroys so many people. So being extremely clear on this. Now, just to break this down, I've seen a lot of different trains of thought on this, but the max that I usually tell people is you want to look at like a 10 or 15 year time frame. You don't really want to go too far beyond that. You could have some really big picture goals, but again, so much is going to change in that time frame that it might not even be relevant, right? So you can, let's just call it 10 years. You've got a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 1-year plan, and then you break that down into the quarterly. Once you have the quarterly, you know how to implement this each month, and then you know each week, and so forth and so on. So again, clarity on that end result is absolutely critical. If you ever become a people pleaser, if you ever have difficulty saying no to things, I would venture to guess that you probably don't have immense clarity on your end result. You're not 100% certain on it. Number two, and this is more about facing the actual fear of criticism. So I only put 3 of the steps on here. There are actually 2 more, but number 1 is you must see the moment for what it is. How often do we tell a story about an event or something that happened and we exaggerate it a little bit? And then we tell that story again and again and again. And at some point, we blur the line between reality and exaggeration, but we've held on to this story and said it so many times that it becomes our truth. So you must detach emotionally and look at the moment objectively, okay? That can be the most difficult step of this for most people, honestly. Part 2, you've got to face it and deal with it. Okay, so you've been able to see the moment for what it truly is. You've been able to see facts and remove that emotion. So now we got to face it. Now we have to face it head on and say, okay, why do I feel these ways? One of the interesting things about triggers is a trigger is just our emotional response or our emotional prediction to something that's going to occur. It's our interpretation. For example, Miles and I could go through the exact same scenario, step for step, everything could be identical. He could have a completely different takeaway than I do. So what you have to realize is we've got to face these moments and deal with them head on with reduced emotion. Okay. So we've been able to see the moment for what it is. We've been able to face it, that emotion, that trigger, and deal with it. We know what we no longer want or what we do not tolerate, the standards that are not part of us anymore. So next, what we have to do is we've got to create a vision. We have to know what this looks like moving forward. I know what I don't want. What is it that I do want? So having immense clarity on this. Anybody have any thoughts here real quick? Or questions?
Yeah. So I had a question because I'm like, I just turned 20 last month. And
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And as someone who's kind of like, starting on his 20s, obviously, I don't really have any like set goal in mind, like maybe if I was 30 or 40, I'd have probably more set goals in mind. So like for someone in my position, what advice can you give to like, I guess like what advice can you give to like get to the position where you're making a goal and sticking with it? Like how do you find that? I guess is my point.
Fantastic.
And I'm just
question.
talking like strictly in terms of like career oriented, because that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in terms of career and what interests I have and things like that. So.
Yeah, Vinny, thank you for asking. So here's my take on this. There are two ways to set goals. We can set lifestyle goals and we can set materialistic goals. When we're talking about the lifestyle goals, there are categories that I personally break this into, right? So I'm just going to run through these real quick. I can send all of this to you privately, okay? But we've got health. That's a big one. So we've got spirituality, personal development, recreation, income, career, living environment, and oh my gosh, I already forgot which ones I said. There's one more, of course. What am I missing, Miles? Income. Did I say income?
I don't think
You're
so.
missing family and relationships.
That's it. Thank you, Ashley. Family and relationships. I knew you were on it. So Vinny, when we look at those categories, it's about what is the lifestyle that I want to live. Okay. So you're like, okay, that doesn't really help a whole lot. You're basically just restating that I need to set goals in these areas, but I don't know what those are. Got you. Okay. Here's what I'd recommend. I would recommend finding somebody, a role model, somebody that you see and you're like, man, I want to live like that. I want to live like that guy. I love, or gal, whoever it is, right? I like the car they drive. I like the way that they interact with their family. I like the lifestyle that they have. And then you just pull on that person's coattail over and over and over. Ask them how they did it. Research how they did it. A lot of people are going to be willing to share this information with you. So by the way, I will share this with you. I don't want to take up too much time on this. I'll share this with you independently, but I've got a little goal book here. And this is a completely different way to look at goal setting. This is information that I've compilated over about 15 years in a sales field, in a sales force, being a manager, opening businesses. So this is a really cool, different take. I'll share a couple with you just really, really quickly. So you'll see the first one. And I love this question. What would I do if? What would I do if I had no limitations? What would I do? What would I do if I only had 5 years to live? You're 20, right? You just turned 20. If you only had 5 years left to live, what would you do? Would you go travel? Would you live in a different place? Would you learn a new language? Like, what are the things that you would do in those 5 years? What would I do if I had unlimited resources? If I had unlimited resources and I could do anything in the world, what would I do? There's a Tony Robbins quote on this that I love. It's not that you lack the resources, it's that you lack the resourcefulness. What would I do if I knew I could not fail? If I knew I couldn't fail, what would I do? And by the way, there's a ton more to dive into this. So another example is, what are some of my gifts? Ton of different ways to approach this. I'll message you after and we can dive into that, but would be more than happy to help you on the goal setting side. Cool.
Yeah. That's good. I guess I'll call you, or like we could talk whenever the webinar ends.
Cool.
And then we'll just, run through that. All right,
absolutely,
thanks.
man. You got it. Any other questions on this in terms of the saying no, clarity on the end result, the goal setting, or the facing the fear of criticism? We good here?
Because my connection's been like Snoop Dogg. I've been coughing like it's hot. So why not, just to help the guy who's 20, why not things you're passionate about? Why not what makes you happy in life? Those are things to strive for. Why be miserable? So what is your comfort zone? Those are all things to work on toward those 5 or 10 year or 15-year goals.
And so, like, what advice could you give me on how to, I guess, maybe, not speed up the process, but like make the process a little bit easier, I guess.
Can I toss a comment in?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Vinny. Matthew McConaughey had a speech, I don't know how many long ago, but he said the easiest way to find who you are is to find out who you're not. So if you hate it when people, steal, cheat on other people, drink every day, you're not that person. So then you're the inverse of that. Same thing with goals, right? Hey, do I want to be, a drug addict on the side of the road? No. Okay, so what's the inverse of that?
Yeah.
So especially if you're 20, if you're anything like me, when I was 20, I didn't know what the hell I wanted. I didn't know what the hell I liked.
Yeah.
I only had 3 hobbies in my entire life, and one of them was picking my nose when I was 6. So it's like trying to figure out what you want and what you pursue is going to be a process of what you don't want. However, the opposite advice I'm going to give you is what Will Smith said, which is like, just pick it. Like, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to be perfect. Just go ahead and pick it. I chose a 10-year goal to have a certain net worth by a real estate investment company. And I didn't love real estate at the time. I wasn't passionate about it. I just said, you know what? Let me pick something. Let me do or die. In 10 years, I'll be 30. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, that's true.
I'll break it down in 3 words for you, Vinny. Number 1, you got to have a lot more experiences. The reality is, you haven't really been super vetted. You might have traveled, you might have done some really cool things, and I love that. But if you're not 100% certain on these things, you just need more experience. How do I get that? You travel and you learn. So experiences, travel, and learn. You get to learn different cultures. And just like what Raymond said, okay, cool. Maybe I go to this particular, maybe you go to California and like, okay, I don't like that thing, but I do like this thing. Right. Yeah. And then you can pull from that and you learn and you expand. We'll dive into this now.
Piggybacking on that, I threw something in the chat with no context, taste everything, eat nothing. I think that's a little adage that I've heard in the past of like figuring out what you do and don't like. Just take a little taste, just dabble your feet in the water. And if it doesn't feel right, it's totally okay to walk away and find something that you do like.
That's true. That's true.
Love that.
I thought you were referencing Raymond's dinner when you first sent that in, Miles.
I saw Raymond make a face. And I was like, oh no.
Okay, cool. So let's go to 5. So forgiving yourself. I want to paint a picture for you really quickly. Let's say that it is a Thursday night and you made a commitment to somebody else about this weekend, right? Whether it's going out, going to a party, going to the movies, whatever it is, doesn't matter. You made a commitment to that person. You said, I was going to do this. Okay. Let's just say floating the river. Okay. So I told Miles that, hey man, I'm going to come hang out. We're going to go float the river on Saturday. Saturday rolls around. We said we were going to do this in the morning and it's 11 a.m. and Miles hasn't heard from me. Right. And then it's 12 and then 1 and then 2. And at this point, I just don't even reach out. Right. Then what happens next? We start to beat ourselves up. We have critical internal conversations because we knew we let somebody else down. This happens with ourselves all the time, by the way. How often do we wake up and we're like, you know what? I'm going to the gym today. I'm going to go run today. And then we don't do it. And then you start to have the critical conversations again. Man, I'm a loser. Man, why did you do this? Come on, you're better than that. And we just do this over and over. And then what happens is you get caught in an emotional loop and you continue to perpetuate these patterns. The best way to conquer this when you're having these self-defeating conversations is self-worth. How do you gain self-worth? You do it by providing unconditional love to yourself. If you have fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, even addiction problems, you can beat all of these with unconditional self-love. So being able to first forgive yourself, that's the most critical point. Look, guys, nobody on earth can go back in time and change what they've done. If you guys have figured out a time machine, please share it with me because I would love to find that capability. But the truth is, none of us here can actually go back and change anything that we've done. So what sense does it make to sit here and beat yourself up over it? Why would you bring yourself down or talk negatively about yourself if you can do absolutely nothing to change the past? So first, you have to forgive yourself. The best way to do this is literally to go look in the mirror directly at yourself and just continue to say, man, I forgive you. Like, I know that I let you down. I know I let somebody else down. I forgive myself. I forgive you. Let it go. Okay. So by the way, this is really only the first step in self-worth is forgiving yourself. I'm not going to go through all the other ones for sake of time. If you want to get those other 4 steps, please email me and I will send them to you. Okay. I've got a cool PDF on this. I've got a video on this as well. I'd be happy to send either of those. But again, to recap this, whenever we make a commitment, we don't show up. This is a direct reflection of discipline, right? We have to be disciplined in our communication, in our action, in everything that we do. And so when we get that negative critical self-talk, first and foremost, you just got to let it go. Forgive yourself. You can't change the past. Move on. It's baggage, right? It's like if somebody did something to you and then you took revenge or something, it's like you drinking poison, hoping that it affected them. Doesn't work that way, right? You got to do the self-work. Any questions or thoughts on this before we go to the next one?
Awesome stuff.
Keegan, are you able to zoom this in a little bit? Like, are you able to make it
yeah, I apologize. For sure. Is that better?
Totally. Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the next one. Again, this is through a lot. So I'm kind of a nerd, guys. I have been reading Harvard business reviews, journals, studies, researches. Like, I think I have read up 500 this year. So like, it's a really big passion of mine. So a lot of the material is coming from that place. Okay. This isn't just stuff that I made up. This is actual research on top performers. So when we talk about learning to tolerate discomfort, somebody mentioned this before, you got to get out of your comfort zone, right? There's this really cool TED talk. I saw this lady and she talks about how she's going to bungee jump for the first time. And she goes up to the edge and she's like, nope, not doing it, turns around. And when she goes to turn around, she looks at the wall behind her. And I don't know the exact vernacular, but it's something along the lines of, you got to get out of your comfort zone. And she sees that and she turns around and jumps. The thing that you'll realize is that there is always a fight for the comfort zone. Why? Because we are smart. Everybody on this call, you guys are intelligent people, right? The truth is your brain is pushing you to be in comfort. We have everything we could possibly need. I personally believe that it is inarguable that we live in the best time in human history. What I mean by that is you can literally go online right now, and depending on where you are, I'm up on the top of a mountain in the boonies and I can still do this. A lot of you guys are in like actual cities and there are real people there, not scarecrows. You can order something like food, clothes, anything, and literally get it within hours. Everything is readily at our fingertips. And so what you got to realize is that your brain is constantly pushing you like, no, you don't have to do this. It's okay. You can be average. You can be normal. You can be like everybody else. You have to fight that voice. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. So The truth is I would challenge everybody here to get to the actual root of this scenario, right? You got to get to the root. And so the root is always a form of fear. I'll tell you really quickly my favorite fear story, and then I'll move on. You guys might have heard me share this one before. This is a true story. I lived in Baltimore, Maryland for some time. And one day I was walking down the sidewalk and I met this young man, and he was sharing this story with me. And he told me that have you guys ever seen Step Brothers in here? You know that part where they have like two routes, and it's like Gardaki or something. It's like the kids that beat them up on the playground, or they can go the long version. That's what this story reminds me of. So this guy goes, you know what? I've got two routes. I can walk down this route and it's only a 10-minute walk, but there is a pit bull that chases me. I'm terrified of dogs. The other route I can take is a 45-minute walk, but it's super long. I waste a ton of time. And so he goes on to tell me about, I made the decision this day that I was going to face the dog. I was going to face my fear. And so I started down this short route. And just like every other time, the pit bull started chasing me. And I started to run. I'm terrified of dogs. So he starts running down the sidewalk, and he sees this loose brick on the side of the road. And he grabs the loose brick and he goes to strike the dog. And right as the dog opens his jawline, it goes to bite him. He realizes the dog doesn't even have teeth, not a single one. And this is a perfect analogy for us facing fears. Again, it goes back to the emotional interpretation that we've created because of some past event. And we think that this fear is bigger than it actually is. And we give it all this power and energy. So I share this with you because at the root of this, you got to face your fear. If you're holding on to fears, the best thing you can do is turn around and face it. Again, really quickly, my mom always had a fear of bridges. She was terrified of going over bridges. And we used to go over the Bay Bridge because I lived in Maryland. She would stop. She would ask me. One time, I kid you not, one time she asked me to actually drive it for her. I was like 10 years old. But I thought that I was afraid of heights, because I saw my mom like get all terrified of going over bridges, and bridges are tall. And I just equated that to, I'm afraid of heights. So I took this with me for a long time. I had invitations to go on planes and things like that, and I just declined them all. I was like, no, I'm afraid of heights. I don't want to do that. Best thing I ever did was I went and jumped off a cliff. I was like, all right, let's see if I'm really afraid of heights. And guess what? Cliff jumping became one of my favorite things. It was one of my favorite pastimes. I've done it in different countries, different states all over the world, Hawaii, South America. I love it now. It's one of my favorite things. I couldn't have got to that place if I didn't face the fear. And in order to face any fear, it's extremely uncomfortable. So you have to get out of your comfort zone to have that growth. And this comes back to discipline. You think you're going to face it and just conquer it one time? No, you have to constantly do it. Push yourself. It's going to push back. Any thoughts or questions on this before we go to 7?
Yeah, Keegan, question for you. Was that the abridged version?
The what? The bridge version?
Did you hear what I said? No, was that the abridged version? Get it?
You cut out. Did anybody else hear him?
Did you hear?
I think the pun he was trying to make, as he said, was that the abridged version of the story. I think that's what he was saying, at least.
I see you, Matt. I don't hear you, but I see
Yes.
All right. I love it. All right, guys. So we're going to do this last thing together. Okay. This is a quick exercise. Feel free to turn your camera off if you have any fear of criticism. But I'm going to invite everybody to do this with me really, really quickly. This is the last thing, and then we're going to wrap up. Okay. So I'm going to ask everybody to sit up straight, and we're going to do a quick breathing exercise. All right. So I'm just going to tell you before, we're going to do 3 breaths. We're going to breathe in through the nose, hold it, and exhale out through the mouth. You want the exhale to be twice as long. Okay. So when we do this, don't feel funny. We're all doing it. I'm going to ask you everybody to close your eyes, and let's start. So big breath in through the nose, hold, and exhale. In through the nose, hold, and exhale. Last one. In through the nose, hold, and exhale. I want you to keep your eyes closed for a minute. Okay. I want you to envision just one area that we talked about today, just one, where if you implement more discipline, let's just say it's the gym, exercise, diet, whatever it is, what is that going to look like a year from now if you show up every single day and commit just to that one area? How are you going to feel? How are the people that love you going to feel? How are you going to feel about yourself? What is that confidence level going to look like? So again, take that one area of discipline and just visualize what this looks like in your daily routine. Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Is it at night? Whenever you've got it, feel free to open your eyes. There's something I really like that John C. Maxwell said about this. So there are two types of people. There's the type of person that acts so they feel a certain way. And there are the type of people that wait to feel a certain way to act. The second person never goes anywhere in life because the truth is conditions are never perfect. They are never going to be perfect. The best thing you can do for yourself is implement discipline today. Start small. So many people want to take this big picture, this 10-year plan, and tackle it in a day. It doesn't work like that. You might have a beautiful vision for a business, a way that you can help other people. You might have a vision of this physique that you really want to have. It doesn't happen overnight. So you have to realize conditions are not perfect. I could have given up when I was in Matthews and I had everything against me. I had every reason to give up. The thing that changed my life was the discipline. So last but not least, manifestation is extremely powerful. I'm taking that visualization technique just a level further. If you have any difficulty with this or need help, use the SMART acronym. So you want this to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and there's got to be a time frame. The best way that I've seen manifestation implemented, once you have your vision, write it on paper, as much detail as possible. It can be a Post-it note, it can be an index card, it can be a loose leaf sheet of paper, it can be a napkin. I do not care. It does not matter. Just write it down. Okay. I'll give you a very quick example on this. Hey, Miles, I want to buy a house in Hawaii. Versus, hey, Miles, by the end of 2023, December 25th specifically, I am going to buy a 2-story beachfront villa off the coast of Oahu. I'm going to purchase this with money that I've earned through coaching, and you're going to come out and visit. Which one has more power and which one is more real? Obviously, the second one. When you write this down for your manifestation technique, you've got to have clarity and depth. It can't just be surface level. Oh, I want to be happy. What the heck does that mean? That's arbitrary. You need the detail in it. So with this manifestation, the best way to get this into your life, Napoleon Hill is famous for this, and this works. I've done it. It works. Morning and night. As soon as you wake up, all you got to do is read your little Post-it note. That's it. Just read it. Literally as soon as you wake up. Why? Because your brain is operating at 10.5 wave cycles, which means your subconscious is the most impressionable when you first wake up, the first 10 seconds. So you do it then, and you do it before you go to bed. Okay. And then last but not least, in terms of hope, the two most powerful emotions are fear and hope. Now, of course, there are a whole bunch of other ones, but look at any political leader. Look at any leader at all. They use this all the time. I'll give you 2 examples. Martin Luther King Jr., he used hope. to move masses, to connect to people, to make a change. Look at Hitler. He used fear to move masses, to make a change. They are extremely powerful emotions. In order to get this hope, to have that vision of the future, to know that you have something greater and something to move forward to, you got to know what your purpose is. You got to build that hope. And once you can see the ark before the flood, then you just start to build it, baby. That's all it is. Michelangelo was asked, how did you make David? And he said, oh, I didn't make David. David was under the stone. I just had to go and chip little by little every day until you could see what I saw. Took him 3 years. Didn't happen overnight. He worked on that thing every day. That's how you got to build this purpose. You got to know what it looks like in your mind and then reverse engineer it. Okay. Any questions on this before we close out, guys? Good. Okay, cool. So my last challenge to everybody, I want everybody to do this, right? Another statistic that's staggering to me is when people go into scenarios like this, only 10% of people actually implement what they learned. 10%. That means on this call today, we're lucky if one person actually uses any of this information. One person. That's insane. Why the hell would you guys get on here and spend your time with us if you're not even going to take anything away with you, right? I used to have this friend, still a friend of mine. Guy's read like 700 books in his life, right? And he tallies them, marks them, and he's 30 years old. He's read 700 books. I'm like, that's amazing. You've got access to all this knowledge. How much have you implemented? How did you use this for your business? How many books have you written? None. It is useless if you have the information, but don't implement it. You've got to implement it. So my challenge to everybody is pick 1 to 3 areas that you need more discipline in your life. Jot down the technique, one of the 7 that we went through today that you want to use it on, and then let's do it. Look, guys, I'm going to give you guys my time for free, no strings attached. Okay. I want to see you take this to the next level. So once you get your area or 3 areas of discipline and you pick a strategy that you want to implement, let's get some time together and actually make this a reality. Okay. So anybody in here that just off the cusp is like, hey, I could use some help on one area of discipline. Is there anybody on here that wants to just jump in right now? Okay, cool. So here's what I'll do. I'm just going to throw this in the chat. If you don't want to set it up, let me know right now and I'll just set it up for us. But let's hop on a 30-minute call and let's go through this. Let's talk about the area of discipline that you need to implement in your life that's going to take you to the next level. And let's freaking get it. Let's go. Let's build this. All right. Any questions or comments or snide remarks before we wrap up, guys?
This has been great, bro. It's been awesome.
Yeah, super informative, man. Great techniques, a lot of great content, and how to handle tough situations, and awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. You know, we grow together. So I love you guys. Anything else before we close out?
Awesome stuff. Love that you're doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. So look, if you really want to take this to the next level, my challenge to you is implement it. You know, it doesn't have to be with me. It can be with anybody else. But because we just spent all this time together, we put all this, mapped it out. I'd love for you to pick one of those 7 strategies and let's talk through it. And then once you've talked through it and you're comfortable, you're clear, you're confident, go teach somebody else. That's how you learn the best, right? So I'm here for you guys. If there's anything I can do to support you, check out that link on the bottom. Go ahead and set something up. I'll help any way I can. If you need any additional information, I got a ton of PDFs and stuff like that. So let's get after it, guys.
Yeah, definitely be in contact, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Good, brother.
All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.
Good night.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.